The spring of 1945. Berlin was collapsing into silence. The streets were a mixture of smoke, dust, and disbelief, a capital already defeated in spirit, while its leader refused to yield. Somewhere beneath the earth, in the dim corridors of the Reich Chancellery, a strange ceremony took place. Cameras flickered, uniforms rustled, and Adolf Hitler, pale and trembling, pinned a medal onto the chest of a boy. The child was thin, barely 12, his boots too large, his expression both proud and frightened. His name was Alfred Zech. The medal was the Iron Cross, second class, one of Germany's highest military decorations. Around them, a dying regime was using its last minutes to stage a photograph, a performance meant to reassure a population already lost to despair. That image, captured by propaganda cameramen, became one of the last portraits of Hitler in existence. It circulated through newspapers and newsreels, a spectacle of loyalty in a collapsing world. For a brief instant, the regime transformed a child into its final symbol of devotion. Yet when the film reels stopped turning, the boy was left to face what came next: defeat, captivity, and a lifetime lived in the shadow of a single picture. If you are drawn to stories that reveal the fragile human faces behind the turning points of history, leave a like and subscribe. More remarkable lives and forgotten moments are waiting to be uncovered. Alfred Zech was born in 1932 in Goldenau, Upper Silesia, then a mining region of eastern Germany, now part of Poland. His father worked underground in the coal pits, and the family lived modestly but steadily. For children like Alfred, the war began not with gunfire, but with posters, uniforms, and parades. By the age of 10, he, like nearly every boy, had been enrolled in the Hitler Youth, an organization that combined physical training, ideology, and obedience. By 1945, the world around Goldenau had changed beyond recognition. The Eastern Front was collapsing, and Soviet artillery could be heard from miles away. The propaganda that once glorified distant battles now spoke of total defense. Volkssturm, the people's militia, where old men and boys alike were ordered to resist. It was in this desperate climate that Alfred performed the act that brought him national attention. In late January 1945, he saw a group of wounded German soldiers stranded on a road near his village. Ignoring the danger, he harnessed a horse, loaded the injured men onto a cart, and drove them through enemy fire to safety. The event was reported to local authorities and quickly spread up the chain of command. Within weeks, the boy's name reached Berlin. To the crumbling Nazi state, Alfred Zech was perfect propaganda, young, brave, unquestioning. He represented a final illusion, that even in the ruins, the German spirit endured. In March 1945, Alfred received an official summons. Escorted by military officials, he traveled hundreds of kilometers to Berlin, a city reduced to rubble and hunger. The journey itself was surreal, past burned villages, bombed rail lines, and columns of refugees. At the Chancellery, Alfred was led into the bunker's reception hall. There, among high-ranking officers and propaganda photographers, he met Adolf Hitler. Eyewitnesses later described the Führer as frail, his hand trembling slightly as he spoke to the boy. Yet his voice, though weak, still carried authority. The ceremony lasted only minutes. Hitler pinned the Iron Cross on Alfred's uniform, patted him on the cheek, and told him to continue serving Germany faithfully. Cameras clicked. Newsreel operators recorded every movement. For those few moments, Alfred stood as a national symbol, the child soldier as savior, courage wrapped in innocence. Afterward, he was given a brief tour of the chancellery, a meal, and a train ticket home. In the fading film footage, one sees a smile flicker across his face, the smile of a boy who could not yet grasp that the man before him and the empire around him were only weeks away from extinction. When Alfred returned to Goldenau, Soviet forces were already approaching. The same propaganda machine that had lifted him to fame now abandoned him to the chaos of the front. In April 1945, the Red Army entered Upper Silesia. The Zech family fled westward, joining millions of displaced civilians. Amid air raids and advancing troops, Alfred was separated from his relatives and captured. He spent several months in a Soviet prisoner camp, a 12-year-old surrounded by exhausted soldiers. Conditions were harsh, though not deliberately cruel. Food was scarce, disease and exhaustion common. Alfred rarely spoke of those months, only recalling that time moved slowly, marked by hunger and fear. Eventually, he was released and managed to locate his surviving family members. But their home in Goldenau was gone. After the war, the map of Europe was redrawn. Goldenau became Złotniki, now within Poland's new borders. The German population, including the Zechs, was expelled. They resettled in what became West Germany, rebuilding their lives among other refugees. Alfred, still a teenager, apprenticed as a mechanic and later worked in construction. In the new post-war world, his brief wartime fame meant nothing. The Iron Cross, once a treasured object, disappeared from view, perhaps lost, perhaps deliberately discarded. To speak of it would invite misunderstanding, or worse. The image of him receiving the medal lingered in archives, sometimes reprinted without context. Most people assumed the boy in the picture had perished in the war. For decades, few knew that he had lived quietly among them, a working man who rarely mentioned his past. Decades later, in the 1990s, historians and journalists began searching for the fates of those who had appeared in Nazi propaganda. One day they found Alfred Zech, living in Bavaria under his own name. He was astonished that anyone still remembered. In interviews, he spoke with calm precision. He did not romanticize his actions, nor deny them. He explained that he had been a child acting on impulse. Seeing wounded men, he simply wanted to help. The medal, he said, had no meaning beyond that moment. He emphasized that he had never joined the front voluntarily, nor carried a weapon. Friends described him as quiet, disciplined, loyal to his work and family. He raised children, paid little attention to politics, and seldom looked back. To younger generations, he was not the boy who met Hitler, but simply Mr. Zech, a craftsman who fixed engines and enjoyed fishing on weekends. When asked how he viewed that photograph, Alfred once replied, "It was only a few seconds of my life." The world remembers the picture. I remember the noise, the smoke, and how tired everyone looked. He passed away in 2011, aged 79. His story, preserved in fragments, became one of many that illustrate how war distorts childhood, turning ordinary lives into symbols before they have a chance to understand what those symbols mean. The meeting between Adolf Hitler and Alfred Zech remains one of the most haunting images of the Second World War. It captured not victory, but exhaustion. A leader reduced to decorating a child because no soldiers were left to honor. Today, the photograph survives as both document and warning. It reminds us how ideology can reach even into the innocence of youth, transforming compassion, a boy saving wounded men, into a tool of propaganda. The line between bravery and manipulation becomes invisible when nations demand sacrifice at any cost. History often compresses human lives into symbols. But behind every uniform, every medal, there is a person who later had to live in the ordinary world again. Alfred Zech did. He built houses, raised a family, and carried the weight of a single moment frozen in time. Perhaps that is the true lesson of his story. History's great images are not just about power or defeat. They are about individuals who survive them. And survival, quiet and uncelebrated, may be the greatest victory of all. If you found this story meaningful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More journeys into the untold corners of history are yet to come.